I think I got really tired of trading time for money and that mentality of, well, if I want $200, that's an hour away from my family. And it's not just the shoot time, it's all the extra that comes with it. So I scaled my business to over 6 figures. And then people started asking me how I was doing it. And photographers are asking me, can you teach me? 80% of it was mindset. It was so much of me getting out of my own way. I just went all in on my visual brand and let that be another piece to help differentiate me. I grew my email list to over 6,000 subscribers in a year with this one little ad. And that funnel became my second largest generator for income in my coaching business, right behind ads themselves.
I say dazzling, beautiful. These are things that you would use to describe your business in and of itself. So give our listeners some insight into what you do, how you've built success in the business world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been a photographer for over 13 years now. I went to college and got my Bachelor of Arts degree in photography and communication, actually. So they both kind of have helped me throughout my business journey. But I started as a photographer and just shot anything and everything: weddings, babies, families. I did real estate, architecture. I just tried everything. And I really found my love in portraiture. And so fast forward to about 5 years ago, the start of the pandemic, I built a photo studio and I actually went 20,000 in debt to build the studio. I was so excited about it. It was kind of like my first time taking it super seriously. This was my full-time thing. So I built the studio and then everything shut down. And so I didn't book a session for 6 months. And I always had this inner knowing though that I was going to make it work and that it was going to be okay. And I don't know where that came from, but it ended up working out. So then coming out of that, I just got really serious about booking sessions. And for a little context, I live in a very small town, rural Minnesota, and my studio is in a town of 1,300 people. So very small. And I was getting to a place where I was needing clients and I had built the studio and I'd gone through a process of upleveling my packaging, my pricing, my structure, kind of everything that I was offering to clients. So I was no longer in the shoot and burn category of photographers, we like to call them, where they're just shooting $200, $300 sessions and it's like rinse and repeat and you're so focused on volume. And so I had transitioned into upping my prices. So I got out of that price shopper market and I entered into a $1,000 to $2,000 range package for family sessions. And this also included wall art, prints and products. And I brought in a client closet so I could provide clothes for whoever was coming in the studio and styling services. I brought in hair and makeup. And so that became the new entry point for me. And then I scaled it from there. So coming out of the pandemic, then, as I was starting to look for clients, I turned to meta ads because I was in the middle of nowhere and I was feeling a little bit like, well, how am I going to make this work? And the two larger markets that are closest to me are about an hour and a half on both sides of me. So I was willing to drive and I would, people would drive to me. They just had to know about me. So I started growing and I scaled that business successfully with the combination of marketing tactics, using ads, increasing my pricing, offering this full service that no one in the area was really doing at that time. And so I scaled my business to over 6 figures. And then people started asking me how I was doing it. And photographers are asking me, can you teach me? I'm just getting started, or I want to increase my prices. What should I do? So then it just kind of came naturally to start mentoring photographers. I would teach them how I edit. I would teach them my workflow. I would teach them business basics. And I think one thing that was lacking for sure as a creative is the business side of it, of managing both your finances and your time because you're your own boss. So as I'm sure your audience knows, that being able to scale a business, there's so many things that come into play beyond just the service you're providing or the product that you have. So teaching photographers, I think it really opened a door for me that was a big passion to be able to help others and teach them what I'd learned. And then through the coaching journey, it became pretty clear that it was ads that had really propelled my business and my growth. And so then I used ads as well for my coaching business to get more coaching clientele, and that started taking off. So then in another year, I doubled my income then with my coaching.
Wow.
So it kind of just compiled. And so, to present day now, I still have my studio and I operate as a luxury brand photographer. And I just take on a handful of clients each month. It's full service. I love the people I work with. It's so fun. They kind of become friends to me because it's women in my world. It's people that are really passionate about their business. And so then to be able to create imagery for them that brings in more money, that converts better on their website, or even with ads and how that transitions. And so I kind of geek out when it comes to meta ads because it's helped me grow my businesses. And so I want to kind of take the stigma away for people that it has to be, you have to be a big business to run them, or it takes a lot of money to make them work. I started very low cost, $5 a day, and started getting people in my door. And so that's kind of what I teach now. But so that's where we're at now. And now I teach a lot of my ad methods as well. And I'm building out my whole coaching program for ads specifically. And then my studio is still doing its thing and serving brand clients.
So cool. I love it. What a beautiful story. And I see this common thread, and I see this among all entrepreneurs who are very successful, but even in your story in particular, start with a big skill, get better at it, narrow in prices, narrow in the offer, have more success, make more money, spend less time, and then find a new problem to solve. Start kind of big, narrow in, narrow in, narrow in. So now you've gone from like helping photographers to make more money, to niche, into even meta ads for
Mhm.
photographers. And that's the riches are in the niches, but you sometimes can't really start
Totally.
with that. You have to start a little broader sometimes and then branch your way, down. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so because we've gone through such a big path, I want to come back to the beginning, not the full beginning of your story and your business, but really that shift, that first initial shift you made from, we're doing pictures for everyone. You're in the pandemic, you've seen this kind of slump, and then those 6 months go by, you finally start booking. At what point? Talk us through the transition into luxury portraiture, because I want to help people. And even if you're not a photographer, but if you are, this can be extra valuable. If you're not, I want to just show the demonstration and illustration of how you create a higher ticket price, because I think a lot of people's initial response is like, but then you'll have even less people because now you've just made it more expensive. So kind of walk us through the
Mhm.
psychology of that and the structure of what you did and how it helped you actually start making more money.
Yeah, great question. I worked with a variety of mentors, so it's not full credit that it just came from my brain. I reached out to other photographers that I saw were at a higher level, the Sue Bryces of the world, Gabby Chung, the ladies that were successfully selling photography, and it wasn't just a digital file and it wasn't a one and done transaction. They were getting these lifetime clients and they were serving them on this in this bigger way that I wanted to know how to do, and I just didn't quite know how to deliver on it. So,
Hmm.
mentorship was definitely key in that. I think I got really tired of trading time for money and that mentality of, well, if I want $200, I gotta go, that's an hour away from my family, and it's not just the shoot time, it's the childcare, and then it's the edit time, and then it's the uploading and the back and forth and the all the extra that comes with it and the software fees. And so I guess I don't know if I have a specific turning point where I was like, okay, this is it. Now we're going big. I think it was a gradual progression of just getting tired of spending a lot of my time kind of busting it to help other people and take their photos. Meanwhile, I was taking time away from my family and it wasn't very profitable. So I looked at it as either, okay, I need to just take photography as a hobby and not try and make it a business because it's clearly not bringing in very much money and it's just kind of spinning the wheels. Or I need to go where I make it really profitable and turn it into a business and treat it like a business.
Hmm.
So I think that would be where I, reached out to mentors and just started dabbling with workshops. And then I really loved newborns and I had little kids at the time too. And so it felt really natural to me because I was with babies a lot. So then I stepped into more seriously into upping my prices and to up my prices then, to your point of, well, if you up your prices, you're going to have less people. That also was kind of the point
Hmm.
because I didn't want to be shooting 10 sessions a week anymore. And so what I was shooting, at $200 a session and you needed 5 people to get to $1,000, now I could replace it with 1 session at $1,000 or more, and that was just the starting point. And to justify that or to make it valuable for my clients, again, I added in the extras, the client closet, the full service, the hair and makeup, and I contracted a local girl to come do hair and makeup who was qualified. And so there was a lot of ways that I could create an experience for my clients beyond just a come and get your photos. And not
Mhm.
that that's a bad thing, like there is a market for that for sure, but I knew for me and my business that I wanted to tap into the next market, and
Yeah.
that's really where I found success for my business.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned it's increasing the value. And I'll just kind of give context for our listeners here. The reason I'm even sitting here today and hosting as one of the leaders on the show, leaders, I don't know, creators of the show, is because I took the pictures for the creators of the show years and years ago, like over 10 years ago. I took their podcast cover art photo, and I was in that grind that
Cool.
you are, where you're just like shoot after shoot after shoot. Just to give kind of a different path to people listening, what I ended up doing that I kind of fell into was there was a website where you could list your stuff. And I got very niche down. I went from I can do everything. And I found my sweet spot was I lived in Southern California, families coming for vacation who wanted big, memorable photo shoots. And
Yes.
so they were really fun for me. I was able to charge a much higher price point because usually they were like big groups of people. I had to be able to navigate
Mhm.
that. And it was also
Mhm.
in that, and I'll kind of lead this into a little bit of what you've done. There was that understanding of the value I wanted to create and then the value that I provided as the photographer and making that personal brand connection too. And then I was able to do
Mhm.
far less photo shoots for much more money. I was like
Wow.
shocked when I would throw out a price and people are like, heck yeah,
Same.
I would pay more. And then
Right.
they're paying for prints on top of that. I was like, okay, this is where it's at. We're not going to just spread ourselves super thin. Cause like you, I had three very little kids at home. I loved having the break to go out of the house and do something. But after a while,
Mhm.
it was like, man, there's a lot back to back shoots on the beach. We're getting kind of exhausting. So
Absolutely. I love
it's,
that you found that market.
yeah, it was fun. It was a really fun
That's cool.
market for me. I got to meet people from all over the world. It was never, so I didn't
Yeah.
have the repeat client thing like you did, but there
Mhm.
still were some
Mhm.
local families in there every once in a while. So for me,
Cool.
like it was even just finding different value to up the price for my market. For you, you added the value in adding the closet. So talk us through that as you expanded your package and your pricing, what that looked like and how you even started marketing to kind of a different person. You know, this is not a mom looking for a photographer for Christmas photos. What your avatar, your client really had to change a little bit, right?
Yes, it absolutely shifted, and really, 80% of it was mindset. It
Mhm.
was so much of me getting out of my own way and realizing that there were those type of clients, I just had to look for them, and once I could get really clear on who it was that I was speaking to, and it was no longer, like you said, it's not the mom wanting a mini session for Christmas photos. It was the mom who's too busy because she's an ER doctor and she doesn't have time to plan her kids' outfits and organize everything, and she just wants the best. She's gonna hire it, and she wants you to show up and do everything for her,
Mm.
and that's the type of person I started marketing to, and after I got a few clients like that, it just kinda became a domino effect because they've all got their friends too, and especially when you're creating wall art, they hang those up in their home, and usually in a high traffic area because they wanna see them often, so whenever they have their friends over, what's the topic of conversation? It's, "Ah, look at that gorgeous family photo. Who took your photos?" Or, "Oh my goodness, look at her newborn photos." And so then it just became the marketing piece got a lot easier because then my services kind of began to stand for themselves.
Yeah.
But it takes work. And as far as my packages, I guess I got kind of off there. Sorry.
No, you're good.
My packages, I went from yeah, I was about that 200 to 600 was, like, my top package, and I was just giving all the digitals, and then I switched to a 3 package structure with a kind of the Goldilocks effect of one's too hot, one's too cold, the middle's just right, and so I just use that from a pricing psychology standpoint. The big package included the big album, 45 digitals. It included a print credit towards up to a 20-inch wall art piece. Kind of the if I could have everything, this is a perfect package. The middle package was just a few less things. It was stripped down a little bit, 30 digital images, a choice of an album or a keepsake box, no additional wall art credit, but then it had a discount to use towards future products. And then my base package was that one that was just a little too small. It's just 5 digital images. They're matted in 8 by 10, and so it was I had something to serve everybody in that too small package. Sometimes it's just what people wanted too. They just maybe wanted a handful of really nice photos, and they weren't worried about having the whole kit and caboodle, then that served them. So it gave an entry point still for clients that some past clients did come on, or people that it was maybe a stretch for them, but they still wanted the quality and ability to still serve them.
Mm. And were all of these taking place in the studio, or was this something that had to still be mobile where you would bring the full service to them?
It would depend. A lot of my family clients would be outdoors and Minnesota, not in the winter, I should say. Some were studio in the winter. But and newborn was always in studio. And so then they would come to me and I had everything for them there. And that was a big draw, I think, for newborn clientele specifically, is I had all the wraps, I had all the boxes, the lighting. They could just show up with their baby in a onesie and a pacifier, and I kind of did the rest. So it was a mix. But then as I got more into brand clientele, and that was kind of a natural progression too, but then it was mainly studio. And now, like, I travel. I was in Philadelphia for a brand session recently. I go up to Minneapolis. I kind of travel wherever. And because of the clientele that I'm speaking to now, I can build that in and it makes sense for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, walk us through that shift as you kind of evolved your ideal client and you've gone from more of the family. And I love that. Just showing us this is a visible thing. This was something that people could see. The referral quality was there. You simplified, like you expanded what you offered in a sense, but even that was still less work than having to show up, produce. Anyone who's never done
Right.
photography is a lot more work than it looks like. It really is. And
So much more.
it's a lot of energetic, making sure you don't lose anything, making sure that you show up with memory cards. There were times that I would show up to a beach shoot and I was really far from anything and the memory cards didn't get loaded into the camera. Like I had someone else do it for me and I didn't notice and I'm
Mhm.
running up the stairs to run to CVS. So there's a lot of mental load that goes with being a photographer who goes places and travels. Like it's a lot of equipment to keep track of. Any
Mhm.
business is, but I think anytime you're like saying, how can I simplify this for myself? It's still going to be work because I'm adding value, but simplifying the whole process and really serving a more specific client with a very specific product, you're already opening the
Mhm.
door to just increased income from less output, which is super, super smart.
Yeah, and it made it so much easier too from a marketing standpoint.
Hmm.
It was, "I have this offer, and I have 3 packages, and you choose this or this," and it just removed some of that buyer fatigue too because they came in and it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
It wasn't, "Look at my price sheet with 5,000 options," and become overwhelmed. It was like, "Okay, there's a sitting fee, this locks in my session, and after the session, you'll see your gallery, and you have 3 collections to choose from.
Hmm.
From there, if you wanna add on wall art or prints, you can, but it was very straightforward and it simplified it for me for sure and also for my clients.
Yeah. Yep. You definitely want to consider the buyer fatigue and not overwhelming your
Yes.
people. And even just having, I love that you called it the Goldilocks pricing structure because photography usually is this is just my rate. And the rate only changes
Right.
based on the type of photo shoot that you're doing. If it's a wedding, obviously it's going to
Mhm.
be more than a family photo shoot. And even that, of being the Me Too photographer, like I can do that one too. I can do that. I can do that. So
Mhm.
exhausting to be changing gears in your brain and the editing and everything
Mhm.
that just changes your workflow when you're doing a different type of a photo shoot. Even studio to
Yeah.
outside is two different things that you're having to toggle between in terms of skill set. So the more you can simplify
Right.
that for yourself and for your client, the better. So talk me through that transition for you as you started doing more brand photos. And when did the meta ads start to come in for you to scale your photography business? Were you doing those a little bit even as you did more family or newborn, or did that more happen as you changed avatars again?
It shifted more when I got into brands, and it lined up with some of my ad services too, because I was finding that my brand clients, because now we're business to business more so, and we're talking, "How can I grow my business?" And I can take your photos, and I can help you use those photos in a strategic way in ads to get
Mm,
more business. And so a lot of the conversation from brand shoots or before when I'm planning is, "How do you plan to use these? Do you want them for your website? Do you want them, probably similar to you even when you talk to your beach clients, are you wanting this like above the fireplace? Are we shooting this big horizontal? Or do you want it vertical? Do you want it close up? And so I have a similar conversation with my brand clients wondering where are these going? How do you want to use these? So ads specifically for clientele, I use them a little bit for if I was marketing a specialty session. It's kind of my elevated version of a mini is what I would run at Christmas time and it served my past clientele and also helped bring in new clients. But I would offer those just seasonally, and I would use ads to fill those,
Mm.
and they'd go really fast. And so I brought in that just as a little filler and an option for people that had worked with me in the past or wanting to work with me in some capacity, kind of test it out. So that's how I kind of dabbled with ads. And then as I got more into brand clientele, it was a new client avatar. So I'm tapping into a whole new market. But because I'd had so much experience as a family photographer, even most people know someone that owns a business or has a friend that needs some updated headshots, or where I bank and they're asking me, can you do headshots for us? So it somewhat came word of mouth, but then also ads came into play with how can I reach, and because I needed specific locations, because I was in this smaller area and I needed to tap into those bigger markets, ads came into play. They were
Mm.
really helpful for that too.
Yeah. So as you made kind of this shift in the messaging and you started speaking more to the business owner, what did it do to your skills? Like, I didn't ask that very well. Like, how did you have to up level your skills? Because I know anytime I took on kind of a new direction, there was a lot more to figure out than just, oh, I'll just pivot and start taking pictures of just headshots. Like, it's a whole skill in and of itself.
Mhm.
So what did that look like for you? People might think it translates across the board. You know how to use a camera, you know how to use a camera. You know how to figure out different background options. You had to figure out the needs of that client, right?
Mhm. Yes. And again, I'll go back to mentorship. That's where I started. I wanted to grow, and there's a part of me that enjoys a challenge, and so I think that's what keeps me growing, and probably most of the listeners too can relate to that. When you have a desire to continually better yourself and grow your business, there is a bit of a built-in excitement about, "Hey, I wanna try something new. Okay, I've mastered this. I can do it well. I know how to market it. I can feel it. What can I do next? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I better serve people? Or who can I?" And my view of business shifted too because I grew my photography business and my eyes began to open to, "Wow, okay, I can make a lot more money than I ever thought possible with this. Now, let's see what else can I do on that scale." And so I think as I pivoted and had to learn more skills for specifically for business owners, it became like the person that I was maybe a few years ago became the person I would speak to,
Mm.
because it was the person that had never had their photos done or maybe had a time or two and they had their friend take them, or just a quick headshot. Maybe they're using their iPhone photo on their LinkedIn page from 5 years ago, and it became like, how can I now help that person? But yes, the skill set absolutely shifted, because now it's how do I get photos that help them sell something and brand themselves?
Mm-hmm.
And it's no longer just a nice family, smiling photo.
Yeah. Yep. So as you started to market to that audience member, and you mentioned like it was you from a few years ago, we don't need to get super into the nitty gritty, but like even just give us examples of you have very different pain points from a mom who needs photos taken and she's super busy, she's an executive, to I need photos taken of myself for my brand. So what did that message start to look like and how did you start serving? And then did any of those people, because I've seen this myself where I'll take photos of people who are photographers. So was your audience
Mhm.
comprised of people who were also doing what you did and they just wanted to be a part of the experience so they could take it for themselves?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And as I was coaching photographers, even as they were growing their business, and I was pivoting mainly just to brands, they would hire me then to take their brand photos.
Mm.
So they had something to show for themselves to use for their business. And I don't know if I mean, social media has always played a big part in marketing our business, but specifically as photographers, it's a very visual platform. And so it's prime for us to be on there for marketing. And I noticed a trend of so many photographers as I was coaching too wouldn't ever show themselves. They would show all their work and their beautiful photos, but they didn't want to get in front of the camera. And so that was a big differentiator that helped me grow my business too. And when I start running ads, it was showing my face. Yes, you can show your beautiful photos, but people wanna know who they're working with,
Mm.
and then use that as a marketing pillar in addition to your beautiful work. Like, how can because you're the only one, you're the only you, and so be able to leverage that. And so I guess from the brand avatar standpoint or my, client, like, who am I speaking to, and as that shifted, because I was seeing that change and I was marketing myself so strongly, and I had no longer was just a family photographer and now I was a brand photographer, I realized the need of showcasing myself as the person to come to and why am I the one that's qualified for this? And then it became easier to speak to the person because it was me just a
Mhm.
few years ago. I was the one that wasn't showing up on social media. I was the one that wasn't talking or willing to show up and say, "Hey, I am the girl you want to hire." So then I think the skills that came from it were definitely there was trial and error for sure. It was not like, right off the bat I had it perfect,
Mhm.
but learning to speak to the business owner who's wanting to grow their business and scale their services, and they need some beautiful imagery to help them do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the most powerful things to understand, and you sometimes can't see it because you're so close to it, but your evolution is literally your best marketing message. Like looking back at,
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
sometimes we try to serve the people who are right there and they're next to us and they're our peers. And it's like, just look down the lane, a couple steps back. Those are the people that you're
Yep.
qualified to help because you've come to the other side of that. I
Mhm.
love that. And you brought up something I was alluded to a little while ago, which is what helped my photography business to grow was that personal branding. It wasn't just the work speaks for
Mhm.
itself. It was the testimonials I got from clients who were like, this was an experience. This was a whole thing.
Mhm.
And putting myself in that too, where it's like any brand, you want them to be the hero, right? This is their day. This is their moment where they're getting the photos taken, but they need to know who the guide is. And I'm thinking of like the story
Mhm.
branding framework, if you've ever done any of that.
Yes.
Like,
That's where
so
my brain went to.
yeah. So you as the guide, you
Yep.
as the brand, talk to me about that a little bit and some of the things that you did right with, yes, having your face out there, not being afraid and not hiding behind the camera. What are some other ways that you
Mhm.
differentiated yourself outside of just the work speaking for itself?
Yes. Another piece that came in actually for me was color.
Mm,
So I am a very colorful person, as you can probably tell. I love the color pink, and I just leaned into that. I used that in a time where photography specifically was very muted. The tones were very the grassy, the boho, and I would shoot that for clients, but that wasn't me personally. And
mm,
so I just went all in on my visual brand and let that be another piece to help differentiate me. I have pink in my logo, I have pink in my packaging, and it's not I walk a tightrope between I never want it to feel too immature because I still want it to feel elevated, but that was another way for me that felt authentic to me, and I went and had my colors done. I don't know, have you ever had your colors done?
mm-hmm.
Like the House of Color with the seasons?
Yeah.
So I did that, and it was kind of eye-opening, and it also helped with my clients because as brand clients, it's when you know your best colors, then you can wear those for your brand session and your photos will pop. And so I kind of began to take my brand presence really seriously from the visuals, the messaging for sure. I felt it was maybe a little more difficult to find messaging that was unique
Mhm.
because, well, I'm a brand photographer and there's 20 million other brand photographers. What separates me? So leaning into my colors, my personality, the full service, the ability to show up and deliver. I leaned into like quick turnaround times because that's something I was getting a lot of feedback from like, "Oh, I hired this photographer, but I just haven't got my photos back forever."
Mm,
So I tried to do like a 48-hour turnaround. Again, hair and makeup. Oh, I have a personal stylist that I use to help coordinate everything. I just try to put all the pieces together for my clients so that when they come to book, that they wouldn't have any objections or essentially anything that they would be feeling would come up like, "Well, I don't know what to wear." I got a stylist for you. I don't know how to do my hair. I've got a hair and makeup girl. I don't know where to shoot. I'm not sure. I'll plan out the whole session for you. Or I can't drive to you. That's okay. I'll come to you. Just take away all those barriers and make it as frictionless as possible. And I think that really helped me scale that part of my business.
yeah. And so just to break this down for everybody too, there's so many things at play there. There's that addressing the objections, having that frictionless business, knowing what sets you apart because of how the quality of your service is different than other people's and what's different there. And then the
Mhm.
quality of you. What's the experience of working
Mhm.
with you? What's the appeal? You come to this website, you're drawn in, you see that it's an experience, not just because of the work that's produced, but because of the person behind the work. For me, one of the
Mhm.
weirdest things that got me a ton of clients and they would tell me this. Like, I didn't ask. They would say, I hired you because in your bio, you said that you love riding Tower of Terror at Disneyland. Like, they immediately connected
No
to
way.
yes. And that was my first realization
Cool.
of, wait, once I took out this boring bio of what I do and talked about who I am, everything soared. And then it didn't take long because you just need your first 5 really good testimonials. I kept getting all these
Mhm.
5-star reviews, and now people were booking because they could trust the data and then they could also see the connection. This is going to be a fun person to work with. And when you know it, 99% of my clients were people who wanted to jump up and down on the beach and have their photos taken. These were not boring, like corporate, you know? So I think
Mhm.
that's an important
Stuffy.
thing too, is know what kind of clients you want to work with and what type of person you are, because you will attract what you put out there. So there's nothing wrong with
Yes.
having this gorgeous, perfect aesthetic because you put out these perfect, gorgeous photos and it's very, you and I might call it stuffy, but for other people it
Curated.
might be elegant, you know? Just know what
Yeah,
that
right.
is and plant that flag so that people know what they're coming for. And then you get to work with the people you really, really resonate with. That's the power in having that personal brand that applies whether you have a photography business or not, any kind of brand. This is really important.
Yes, 1000%. Yeah, you call in exactly who you want to by putting out the image of, "This is who I am, this is." I love that you had that in your bio. The more it made me think, so we've got goats this summer, so I live on a farm, and some of the content even from that will be the most engaged content by far. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll give photography tips, I'll give ad tips, I'll give, and then as soon as I say something about the goats or the chickens on the farm, the engagement skyrockets.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right there. It's the little pieces that you can bring out, the human part, I feel like, of the brand that you can showcase will help you call in the right clients for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's, like I said, it's universally true whether you're doing a business like this or not. I see this shift that's happened in social media that because we're more interest based and we're not just putting people in their category, like that's still there. But if you can connect
Mhm.
over things that are not even related and you are putting yourself out there more, like you even have big, huge corporate brands that are trying to put faces and they're trying to put personality to
Mhm.
their brand. And so you're only going to get further. So it's no shock to me that you've been able to do as well as you have. And those are the foundational pieces. I want to talk about ads a little bit. But I would say my caveat and what I would ever say to someone about ads is like it can't replace those core things. Once you have that in place, the ads become easy because I've done ads for people too. I've had 20 lifetimes apparently. You and I have some similar
Yes.
overlap in our
We have a
stories.
lot in
We
common.
do. We do. I feel like many women entrepreneurs I know started with a camera in their hands and then it just branched off from
Yep.
that. I know so many of my peers that started with a photography business because it was so accessible to moms to make some side
Mhm.
money. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, I
So
feel
cool.
like as I did ads for people, if they couldn't answer those core questions of who is this for, what's the unique thing about your business, you're going to be in that sea of 20 million people trying to market the same exact product. So, yeah, let's kind of jump into that a
Sure.
little bit. I'm sure you're nodding, you agree with me. It's really important to have those
Yeah.
details figured out for ads to be successful, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Otherwise, you waste a lot of money because your messaging is vague, your visuals might be generic, and you really don't stand a chance.
Mhm. So you're selling
But
a
yeah,
service. Yeah, talk us through like your
yes.
process of what people need to consider. You don't have to give us a full tutorial on meta ads, but just some of the ways it's worked for you.
Absolutely. I'll give you a high level overview for ads, that department. I did hire at one point because I felt like I wasn't the person to do it myself. I thought, well, there's someone that can do this better than me. And funnily enough, there's always somebody that can do something better than you, but that it's not the point. Anyways, I hired someone and they flopped. I paid a lot of money and they didn't convert. And it was kind of a challenge to me too, like, I wanted to learn and figure it out. And so I did the opposite of what that person had told me, where you need to be spending a lot of money every single day for it to gain traction, and I went the opposite, so I started just spending a few dollars a day. The few ads that I've had the most success with are, one was an ad to grow my email list, just a simple lead gen ad, and I know people can be conflicted about this because they're like, "Well, it's not buyers." But for me, I used a $5 a day ad. I grew my email list with over 6,000 subscribers in a year with this one little ad. And that funnel then of people and contacts is what it became my second largest generator for income in my coaching business,
Mm.
right behind ads themselves, because I did also use ads for digital products. I use them to sell retreats and higher ticket items. But I think just starting off, it helped me get confidence in running ads myself because I could see people joining my email list and it was people I could start connecting with, new people were getting in my world. And for somebody that was a little bit jaded from ads and then kind of coming back into them myself, I just wanted some form of a win and to validate myself a bit with like, okay, ads can work for me. I'm on the right track. So I really like just a simple add to grow an email list. And then you also get that data where they live in your world. They're not in this borrowed land of social media, which is great for many reasons. But that one was great. Another type of ad I love is if I'm sticking low cost, just getting started, is a simple awareness ad that is kind of like a billboard on the side of the road to get more people in my world.
Mm.
I am a fairly small, I'm not a big fish on social media, but I just wanted to get more eyes on my work. That's something I've used time and time again for my photography work. If I'm just, running an offer or if I have a piece of content that does really well organically and by that, I just mean getting a lot of engagement or likes or comments, then I'll put a little money behind it, turn that into an awareness ad and get some followers from that, get it in front of the people that would be my ideal audience. It's, again, low cost type of ad you can run. I really like that. And then the third would be my digital product ad. And it's my favorite. It's just a low cost ad. And it's a product that's $50 and under, a digital product. And the funnel itself ends up just kind of self-liquidating because the income that you make from the digital products cover the ad spend and then some. I get about a 3x return on my digital product on average, and I'm really happy with it. And then it also is just a starting point of my whole offer funnel
Mm-hmm.
because they're buying something, and as we know, somebody that will buy is a lot more likely to convert again as a long-term client than somebody that's just coming in with a freebie. So those are probably like the 3 flagship type ads that I would either start with or recommend the most.
Yeah. And I'm curious with your self-liquidating ad, that's more for your coaching side. Did you test anything like that
Mhm.
with photography? That would be a flex if you could figure out how do we sell something that then leads to a photography client. It's kind of a different realm. It's more
Yes,
that B2C
right.
versus B2B. So
I haven't ever tried that
okay.
with a digital product. I've only used ads for photography specifically, either to grow a clientele. I've used ads to do a wait list for photography clients for specialty sessions or like even brand sessions. I'll do a day and run some ads to that. But I haven't done anything with a bought-in offer
Mm-hmm.
as far as like something
It would
which
be
it would be fun to do that,
I don't know how well it would work.
but I
Like,
don't
it
know
would
what
be
I'd use.
interesting to be the
I
one who could
know.
figure out how that would work. I just think you'd have to maybe sell something bigger on the back end. So when you say the 3x return with those self-liquidating ads, that's because down the line you're selling other coaching. You're selling something bigger that makes it worth the just kind of the wash of the ad, right?
Actually, no, that's actually at point of sale. So
Cool.
3x being the product itself, the upsell, and then order bump offer. So on average, the at purchase time is about a 3x return.
Nice.
So, and I play with different offers, and again, like to be transparent, it's $27 offer coming in. So I'm making on average about, either $61 to $81 return. So that's a 2x or 3x, depending on if they do every upsell and order bump. I have a couple upsells I'm playing with now to see. And now, with the platforms I use, like, you can offer a million different upsells. But that's so far what I've seen success with. So, but if I were to look at lifetime, I get over 15x return. I've had a lead come in so my email lead gen ad, it converts about 27 to 31 cents a lead. And they come in. I had one person join that email list, join my coaching program for 1,500, and then upsell into my high touch coaching for 8,000. So within 90 days of joining from a little ad, he didn't even know I existed. Within 90 days, he invested over 8,000 with me.
Wow.
So that ad to me is worth it. And again, I'm running that for about $5 a day. It's just my simple lead gen
Mm-hmm.
one that comes in. But I really do believe in ads so much so that I'm like shouting it from the rooftops. And you could start small. It doesn't have to be big. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really like ads.
I agree with you. I think if you know what you're selling and you validated it to an extent, Ads are such a great way
Yes.
to pour fuel on the fire and to save time. And if you are someone who, you want to have that full-time income and the work itself is so much work, I think we're running into this era where organic social media content is so great, but it can in and of itself be a second job. So if you can find
Mhm.
that really good blend between I'm posting so people know I'm still here, I'm still active, I'm putting out the good content, but then you're really using that to elevate your exposure so much faster and reach people and not just be beholden only to the algorithm. It's just good business. It's just smart business. When you see someone running
Yeah.
ads, it doesn't mean that, they suck at organic lead generation. It just means that they're smart and they're using energy and money a little bit differently. So I'm with you. I think it's
Yeah.
super brilliant. And if it's working for you on both ends of the spectrum, then absolutely. And it's something you should be teaching other service providers. We didn't really even get into that as much, but I think people can probably see the pattern here. It's a rinse and repeat system. You keep simplifying down, like we said in the beginning, that offer, that
Mhm.
person you're serving. You've increased the package value, $8,000 for high touch coaching, all the way from charging $200 or $300 from a photo shoot. Every business can be built this way. I'm sure you agree with this.
1000%. Yep.
Don't think I only have this skill, so I can only do this. Look at it as this is step number one. There's always further to go.
Yep.
You can climb the ladder as high as you want to go, as high as you want to take it. So I love it.
Absolutely. And even looking back, sometimes I have to remind myself too, because I'll think to myself, why didn't I start doing this 5 or 10 years ago? Why didn't I get into coaching? But I really couldn't have
Hmm.
because I didn't have the life experience to do it. So putting in all the years at the $200, $300 photographer, having to learn some hard lessons, even hiring the ad manager that didn't work out, and, some of the expensive coaches I maybe invested in or things that I went through that I later thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have. They've all got me to the place where I have the experience that I do to be able to teach or just be smarter and better at business now, but I
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that lens if I hadn't have gone through it. So,
Hmm.
I do think it's valuable to be grateful and to not discount to some of maybe the hard stuff that you go through at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, where can people check out your work if they want to see all of the beautiful photography we've been talking about? And even if they're in the service industry and they want to look into your coaching, best places for them to go.
Love it. So, Instagram, my handle is Biz with Brooklyn. It's just as it sounds, BIZ with Brooklyn. My website is brooklynphotomn, as in Minnesota.com. Don't get me started on that URL. Brooklyn Photography was taken, but it's up there. So right now, that's probably the best place to find me. Drop in my DMs anytime. I love connecting with people, and yeah, that's probably
Amazing.
the best place to find me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing what your journey has looked like and how you've been able to grow from $200 to $300 photo shoots into a multi six figure, probably very soon 7-figure business. It's always so fun to hear the journey. You're still like in it, right? So you can relate these stories.
Totally.
It's not a long distant memory, and it's always so valuable to hear those. So thank you again for everything that you've shared.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.